Hello and welcome to this podcast from the Digital Research Video Project, organised by Suzanne Pilar-Birch through the Social Media Knowledge Exchange. In this video we'll be finding out how analysing the bones of people from thousands of years ago can tell us about their beliefs and their attitudes towards their dead, from research by Rosalind Wallduck. There are many ways that different societies deal with dead bodies. Hindus cremate the dead in order to purify the corpse. Bodies are placed in coffins in religious ground by Christians. The Egyptians mummified their dead to ensure immortality, and high-status Vikings were honoured by placing their bodies in boats. By studying burial practices, archaeologists have been able to learn a lot about past societies and their beliefs. One type of burial practice, however, isn't at all well understood by archaeologists: human bones that have been scattered or disarticulated. This is despite them being commonly found at prehistoric sites. 4 important sites that show these disarticulated remains, as well as graves, are found in the Danube gorges of Serbia and date from between 9,500 and 5,500 years ago, a period known as the Mesolithic and Neolithic. During this time, people used stone tools, lived in huts and moved seasonally. But between the Mesolithic and Neolithic, their way of life changed drastically, from hunting and gathering to farming. The graves at these sites in Serbia suggest a change in the beliefs of the people around the time of this shift, with the bodies in the graves going from being extended, or lying straight on their back, to crouched like a fetus. But it's harder to tell what burial practices occurred, and whether they changed over this period, with the disarticulated bones. They appear to have been deliberately deposited, some in neat piles, others on the floors of houses or incorporated into graves. But why? Well, now archaeologists are starting to understand these bones better thanks to a technique known as taphonomic analysis. It involves looking carefully at bone type, patterns of fractures, and any changes to the surface, and using the information to reconstruct what has happened to the bones to leave them in their current state. It's a technique that was originally developed for studying scattered animal bones from archaeological sites, and more recently human bones in forensic cases. Archaeologists can use it to identify any funerary practices that were carried out. Take, for example, a bone that has significant flaking from weathering and tooth marks from animal gnawing. This would indicate that the body has been left outside, above the ground, for a significant amount of time. Taphonomic analysis of the disarticulated bones from Serbia has shown that many different funerary practices occurred during this time period. Some skulls were cut so the scalp could be removed and then placed in pits. Some long-buried bodies were deliberately fragmented and pushed to the side so a new burial could be placed in the ground. Others were initially buried in the ground and then the bones removed from these graves at a later date to be placed in houses or incorporated into new graves. When flesh remained, stone tools were used to clean the bones, and one bone was even found carved with decorative lines. And these types of funerary practice continue even with the shift from hunting and gathering to farming. So, by using taphonomic analysis, even disarticulated human bones can tell us a lot about the beliefs and attitudes of the people of the Mesolithic and Neolithic. It's clear that people in the past had different feelings about dead bodies and human bones than we do today, and dealt with them in many different ways. Uncovering their ancestors' bodies was important to these people and allowed the living to remember the dead and have them present in everyday life. I hope you've enjoyed this digital research video podcast. To find out more, visit smke.org.